They are determined to proffer practical, all-hands-on-deck solutions to the country's economic hardship.
Also to come, group known as the Volta Diaspora Caucus besieged Parliament to demand an apology from unknown MP who recently referred to Clote Kole MP as daughter of a murderer.
Plus, the Foreign Affairs Minister Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa opens a satellite passport office at the Hajj village in Accra to facilitate passport acquisition process of pilgrims ahead of this year's Hajj.
It's News Central live on TV3. I'm Kemi Amano.
And I am Mawin Aigbeta. The bulletin starts right now.
Details now. Second day of the National Economic Dialogue is currently underway at the Accra International Conference Center as various stakeholders gather to proffer solutions to help turn around the country's ailing economy. The dialogue forms part of President Mahama's 120-day social contract with the Ghanaian people during the campaign period. Breakout sessions are currently underway on 6 thematic areas. Let's go to the conference center live now. Michael Obodu is our man on the ground with a bit more on this. Michael, good afternoon. You've been at this second day of the dialogue. Talk to us about what you're observing so far.
Your initial thoughts on the National Economic Dialogue, what do you make of it?
Well, I think it's a good thing. I mean, the president has been clear that even though his party won power and they had a manifesto, he believes that there are ideas beyond the manifesto or the party that could be useful for developing the country, especially because of the way the country had, the troubles we've been through, right? Don't forget, this is like Senchi version 2. And don't forget the first Senchi, the ideas there crystallized into a homegrown policy, which eventually fed into the IMF policy. So, it is all good. I mean, some of the things I've heard so far, his commitment to ensuring that corruption is reduced to the barest minimum, the fact that he's going to ensure that the reset agenda is put on back basically into motion, and a charge to his own ministers and his own people that, look, it's not going to be business as usual. And those soft issues are very important. The longer he keeps at them and then actually actualizes them, because that's what we need, then I'm sure something good will come out of it. Having said that, though, I mean, I was a presenter, lead presenter, just one presenter for the governance and fighting corruption, eliminating corruption and good governance, basically how to promote good governance and eliminate corruption. I decided to go against a train of thought that, I mean, I was not going to talk about all the institutions, because we've spoken about all these institutions, right? We need to make sure the OSP is doing this. People have been called for all these institutions that have been put together and all of that stuff. Well, I decided that, or at Imani, we decided that, aren't we tired and probably bored with this whole control systems that we impose on ourselves through various programs like the Public Financial Management programs, PFMs, strategies that we have. We've been doing this for almost 33 good years, right? From 1997, when we started this public financial reform or public sector reform, all the financial instruments or financial systems we've adopted have been top-down heavy control. Budget process, budget making, budget execution, accountability, auditing, going back to making sure there's a budget deficit. It's been that cycle all through. Anytime we have a crisis, we think that we need to come with a control system. Then we push it down the throat of everybody. And then we come back to the same square one, right? All since 1992, go back to, since 1992, or even the year 2000. Look at the crisis we've had. We have about 3 fiscal crises, 2 debt crisis, 1 banking crisis, And all these crises have the same mother. Corruption, maladministration, and eventually they have the same symptoms, they have the same medicine as well. Public sector reform, public financial reform. Nothing happens. We have a public sector system that we put in place. Nobody even respects the public sector reform agenda. Look at what happened to Tonyedu when he was under Mills. He says he sent memos to ministers to answer questions. Nobody bothers him. Eventually he gave up. Osafo came. He didn't even do any work because he only edited, the entire time he was there, he only edited the policy paper the NDC prepared. But they had cars and all of that. It was not time they shut it down. The current administration also wants to talk about public sector reform, but even now it's even more depressed. Because there's this woman who was being made a minister of state. That's all there is to public sector reform. Really, if John wants to get things going, I plead with him to take a second look at the Ministry of Public Sector Reform. I think that ministry deserves a cabinet level, deserves to be in the cabinet. You know why? Because it's the only ministry that can actually quiz through proper monitoring and evaluation.
Our reporter Michael Ogbodu there in a conversation with Imani Africa's founding president, Franklin Cudjoe. More from the National Economic Dialogue later.
Well, the Member of Parliament for Ifidiasia Sokore, Dr. Nana Ayiwe-Free, has asked the Finance Minister to apologize for stating that there has been a misuse and diversion of funds at the National Health Insurance Authority. Speaking at the opening of the National Economic Dialogue, Dr. Kesalatu cited financial shortfalls and the misuse of resource as a major challenge hindering the efficiency of the NHIA. Well, the minister also noted that the scheme no longer receives its full allocation from the National Health Insurance Levy as required by law. But that assertion has come under strong criticism by Dr. Free, who contends that the NDC has realized it is not possible to uncap the NHIA as it is erroneously promised during its campaign. He sought to explain the true state of affairs, for which he demands an apology from the minister.
I think that having gone into office, the Minister of Finance sees that it is so difficult to uncap, which means it is so difficult to give all the resource envelope from the health fund to the National Health Insurance Authority. The only way to go about it is to say that there is misuse of resources and also there's a shortfall. It is not true. They are passing the buck. And I want the Finance Minister to accept and to admit, to apologize to the people of this country that the promise that they made to uncap, they cannot uncap it. And in this budget, we are expecting nothing less than a full allocation of what was received in the health fund to the NHIA. Now, if he says misuse, I disagree with that. You know, Finance Minister is a very smart young politician, intelligent, and I will not take his words for granted. Atu saying misuse, it is a statutory allocation, and it is done here in Parliament. Unlike the other state agencies that the Ministry of Finance would approve their budget, we approve NHIA in this Parliament. It's a joint effort of the two parties, or the majority and the minority. So if there is misuse, we have sat here several years to approve their budget. We didn't raise the issue over here. Why would you see misuse when you become a Minister of Finance, when you were a leader of the minority then? I don't think there's any misuse. It is that I have gone into a new office. I realize I spoke more than the reality, and the reality is caught up with me. For that matter, I have to go around it. And it comes with an admission, an apology.
Well, let's take you to Parliament right now, where all of this is connected some way, somewhat, because the House is expected to begin debating the President's State of the Nation address as delivered on Thursday. Christian Yale is my colleague in the floor, or in Parliament for us. Let's connect with him right now and get a bit more. Yale, we understand the ranking on the Health Committee is challenging some of the assertions by the Finance Minister yesterday. What more are we to expect when that debate starts properly on the floor of the House?
All right, Eric. So we know that already the minority yesterday held a press briefing or press conference in which they presented what they have termed as their own true state of the nation address. And so we really look forward to how they're going to argue their case out when the House is reconvened. What we know currently is that the House has been reconstituted into a closed sitting, and currently a briefing is being received from the Minister for the Interior. Earlier on, we were expecting the Minister of Energy and Green Transition, John Abdullahi Jinapor, to answer some urgent and oral questions that have been brought by some members of Parliament. But we understand that he is expected to deliver an address at the National Economic Dialogue, which is currently underway, and so for which reason he has been rescheduled to appear before the House pretty much later. But just like you earlier stated, what we know is that one of the issues that would take center stage today would be the debate on the President maiden State of the Nation address, which was delivered last week. And with that one, actually, from the business committee's briefing that we received, there is a time allocation to every member, especially for the leadership of both sides, as well as other members, just to regulate it and ensure that things go the right way. And so that is the main thing. It is actually promising to be a busy Parliament this week, because we're going to have a number of ministers who would appear before the House, about 5 of them, including the Minister of Education, Roads and Highways, Green and Transition, as well as the Interior, among others, and even the Gender Minister, to come to answer some urgent questions as well as some oral questions. Today, for instance, we expect the Appointment Committee to lay one of its reports for the vetting of the deputy ministers as well as that Minister of State, which took place somewhere last week. And then subsequently in the week, we would expect to have some motions being moved on that particular one to, endorse or otherwise, approve or otherwise those ministers or deputy ministers who have been duly vetted. And so that is what we expect to happen today in Parliament, the laying of that report by the Appointment Committee, and then the main issue would be the debate on the President Sona. Eric.
Quickly, Yale, with respect to this briefing that the Interior Minister is providing to the House in this enclosed meeting, do we know what urgent question prompted the appearance of the Minister before Parliament? Do we have an idea what details he's providing to the Legislative Chamber?
All right, Eric, so we know that for all the various ministers who are expected to appear before the House, there are a number of issues that they are expected to respond to. Right. And if I should even take you through what I know for the Minister for Energy and Green Transition, he is to basically apprise the House on the gradual transition of the nation to the use of clean and renewable energy. And so there are a number of urgent questions, 2 of them actually. One from the Member of Parliament for Swame, John Darko, who wants to ask the Minister about the causes of power fluctuations. And yesterday, for instance, the minority in that press statement indicated that the President did not solve Dumso as he has been touting, and that his record is as abysmal as anything else they can think of. And so that is one question that the Member of Parliament for Swame, John Darko, would seek to ask the Minister of Energy and Green Transition. And then we have the Deputy Majority Leader and MP for Asokwa, Patricia Piaget, who would ask that question to the other ministers, like the Gender Minister in particular, about what measures the ministry has put in place to ensure the effective and efficient implementation of the Affirmative Action Act, or the bill or the law, because also that throughout the vetting last week, when the deputy ministers appear, a number of them were asked that same question about how they are going to implement this in their respective sectors, especially looking at the margin or the target set by the Act, which more or less advocate for at least a 30% appointment of women into government positions, and which one of the reasons the majority or the minority, for instance, has cited as a worry, what they believe is a potential, non-meeting of the target set by the Act, and even what this government is able to do. So those are some of the crucial questions that will be asked. And also on the education front, we're looking at the free SHS, which is one of the main questions to be asked to the minister. Eric.
Rather than Christian, I appreciate that you could provide those details. That's my colleague Christian Yali in Parliament for us with respect to a number of urgent questions expected to be answered this week by respective ministers of state. We know that the Interior Minister as well is currently before the House answering specific questions, details of which we'll get after the House is opened to the public. And then as well, the Appointments Committee laying one of its reports on the Deputy Minister's position as well. We can bring you some more stories right now.
Indeed, this afternoon, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa, has opened a satellite passport office at the Hajj village in Accra, aimed at facilitating passport acquisition for pilgrims. The minister noted the office will issue passports to applicants within 3 days of application at no extra cost. Crosby Annan is our man monitoring this story. He's joining us with a little bit more on this. Crosby, good afternoon to you. What else can you report about the satellite passport office?
Right, Kevin. So the minister announced that the method being introduced by government is to streamline and expedite passport processing, specifically for Hajj pilgrims for 2025. So he emphasized that the initiative marks a significant milestone in the country's history, because until today, Hajj pilgrims would have to go through the regular process to acquire a passport and the other processes before they are able to make their pilgrimage to Mecca. And he said the move is in line with government's broad agenda to improve service delivery for all citizens. Touching on passport acquisition, Kimberly, so he noted that a few initiatives have been implemented since he became Foreign Affairs Minister. For instance, the 24 passport office working. There's also this new satellite office for passport acquisition for Hajj pilgrims. And then he also noted that this passport acquisition process will last for only 3 days. So if you apply for a passport to go to Hajj this year, you should get it in 3 days. That is after all the other processes you've been able to go through them. The passport office has brought on board the people who would ask you questions, immigration experts, all officials who should work on passport acquisition, passport processes. They will be working at the Hajj village to ensure that people who apply for passport for Hajj, they're able to get it within 3 days at no extra cost. So they're still paying only 500 cedis. They're not paying the cost of expedited process. They're paying the cost of regular passport applications, Germany.
See, and what's been the response? Have people begun registering?
Well, excited, of course. For a few agents who were present, they noted that this is indeed a significant milestone for passport acquisition, particularly for our Muslim brothers and sisters. It has never happened in the country before, so they're excited that they'll not have to go through the regular passport acquisition process, go and queue for their passports amongst others, but they can walk to the Hajj village, go through the process from beginning to end. It would ease the burden on them, and the cost component as well is something that they are welcoming greatly, because it eases a lot of burden, financial burden, on our Muslim brothers and sisters who may want to go to Hajj, who may want to go to Mecca, beg your pardon, but may not have a lot of funds to do that. For Aladi Collins, now who is the chief of the interim Hajj board, so you say that Ghana currently offers the lowest fare for Hajj pilgrimage in the whole of sub-Saharan Africa, charging Muslims less than $5,000 per person for the journey to Mecca. So he highlighted a fare of 62,000 cedis. That's approximately $4,130. is the most affordable among neighboring countries, all attributing it to President John Dramani Mahama's decision to reset things and make, the entire process very smooth.
Very well. Crosby, let's take a listen to the minister and then we can end this conversation.
How do we make sure that our brothers and sisters who are going to take part in the 2025 Hajj, how do they also benefit from those passport reforms that we are implementing for all Ghanaians? So after a brainstorming session, on Sunday we were here, we did a field visit to assess this place to see if it meets the standards for issuing passports. And we came to the conclusion that we can carry out a satellite passport application center here at the Hajj Village. Wow. And the beauty of what we are doing here as we make history is that we have set a target. When you apply for your passport here at the Hajj Village, within a maximum of 3 working days, 3 days, you will receive your passport.
Foreign Affairs Minister Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa. Earlier was Crosby Annan, a reporter from the Hajj Village.
Away from this, but still remaining in the capital, and a group known as the Voter Diaspora Caucus are on the streets this afternoon embarking on a demonstration to demand an apology from an unknown member of parliament who recently verbally assaulted Zaneto Ajiman Rollins, the MP for Klote Kwale, referring to her as a daughter of a murderer. The protest will take place, or is taking place, from the Rollins' residence to Parliament House, where they intend to petition the leadership of Parliament. So, as you may be aware, the said incident occurred on February 4, 2025. Exactly a month ago, while Minority Leader Alexander Peña-Markin was addressing the House amid heated discussions surrounding the 60th anniversary of J.B. Dankwa's death. The remark sparked widespread condemnation and calls for swift action against the perpetrator. There has been petitions to the Speaker's office for an investigation. Well, this group, the Voter Diaspora Caucus, they've taken it a notch higher, seeking to demand some action from the leadership in Parliament. Safwa Abuahene is my colleague. She's there for us, following this group. She's joined us right now with a bit more details. Safwa, where are the group, or where is the group exactly in their march towards Parliament? Well, it does appear Safwa is not with us just as yet on the telephone lines, but I mean, a lot of you might have seen bits and pieces of the clips on social media and the condemnation that came with it. It actually forced Damongo MP Samuel Jinapo to openly come out on social media to deny ever making those remarks, because there were allegations he was a said individual who made those remarks. Let's go back to Safwa, who's joined us via the phones quickly. Safwa, I'm asking where the group has reached in its march towards Parliament.
Well, yes, Mawena, they're already in Parliament and has been able to submit the petition to the clerk of Parliament already. Yes.
What demands are they asking of the leadership of Parliament now that they've submitted this petition?
So from their presentation, they apparently wrote a letter to Parliament and to the Speaker, giving him 10 days to make the MP who made that comment in Parliament to own up and apologize. And from them, they said the Speaker had travelled, and so they could not get a response from the Speaker to do so. But now they are just giving the Speaker the opportunity to let justice.
Well, unfortunately, we may have lost Safwa again on the telephone lines, but let's hear from some of the individuals who've been speaking to her in relation to their concerns.
We, the members of Greater Accra NDC Voter Diaspora Caucus, are Ghanaian citizens who believe in the idols of the National Democratic Congress. The group is chaired by
each out democracy event. We like to use the sense of responsibility.
That's the group when they petition the clerk of Parliament seeking to have some action taken. Safwa, just quickly on what they want done. You were seeking to explain that they had petitioned the Speaker earlier, but the Speaker was out of the jurisdiction. How many days are they seeking to have the Speaker fish out this Member of Parliament? Well then, it does appear technology will not allow us to have that conversation with my colleague Safwa Bwahin, who has been following the group who've been marching the streets of the capital seeking to have the legislature investigate the development on the 4th of February 2024, where a Member of Parliament described Zaneto Algerman-Rawlings as a daughter of a murderer when there was heated debates on the floor of the House. And if you know parliamentary debates, you know that sometimes they get very feisty as opinions are shared and they heckle each other. Someone made an unfortunate comment which has drawn a lot of anger from a wide section of Ghanaians. Now there's a group which have made its way to Parliament, have petitioned the legislature demanding that an investigation be conducted, and the MP fished out and made to apologize. We'll get a bit more details if you stay with us here on our subsequent bulletins, but we're going over our very first break here on News Central. When we return, we have a bit more for you with respect to news, particularly on President Mahama's quest to end the practice of sole sourcing being used as a means or an avenue for corruption. Stay with us.
Welcome back to News Central. We can now take some other stories. Sole source contracts, the bane of many governments and the ultimate source of Ghana's biggest problems, corruption in the Fourth Republic. Increasingly, however, successive governments have failed to deal a decisive blow to this completely legal yet harmful piece of legislation in the procurement architecture, a development which was of great concern to President Mahama during the launch of the 2025 National Economic Dialogue. According to the president, his government would deal decisively with the practice which has ridden the country of millions.
We must review our laws to eliminate excessive waste in the procurement of government supplies and projects. Single-source procurement must be the rare exception rather than the norm. We must also subject government projects above a certain threshold to value for money audits. And just this morning, I was reviewing some of the procurement reports. And there was this procurement for poultry farmers, 10,000 units of something. And it was single source. The reason for single source was urgency. And one company was giving the contract to supply 10,000 units of whatever it was. The supplier and the person who assembles it was not allowed to bid. And so the company that won it went to the supplier, bought the items for 4,500 and came and sold them for 6,600 to government and walked away with 21 million cedis on that supply. I mean, how can you do this? I mean, it was our own company we're running. How would we do a thing like this? But that is government bleeding. Everybody cutting their pound of flesh. That must stop.
So what is sole sourcing and why is it so preferred in most of such corruption cases cited by the president? Let's get you some information. Now, Moena Egbeta will do just that. Moena, talk to us about what you're learning about the Procurement Act.
So completely legal, sole sourcing or single sourcing as it is called. And we know that the Procurement Act of 2003 was amended in 2016 as well, Act 914. And we zeroed in on the part about single source procurement, which also is known as sole sourcing. And it's completely grounded in law, where the law reads that where goods, works or services are only available, and these are instances where sole sourcing are supposed to be used from a particular supplier. If a particular supplier has exclusive rights in respect of the goods and no reasonable alternative exists, then there's a considerable reason or justification why any government entity can resort to the use of sole sourcing. And then there's a provision of further justification for which reason sole sourcing can be used. And we had President Mahama states that example he gave about the contractor walking away with 21 million cedis was used. The reason given was urgency. That's another provision as provided by the law when sole sourcing can be used, where there's an urgent need for goods, works or services, and engaging in tender proceedings is impractical because there's a certain sense of urgency that needs to be carried out with respect to the work that needs to be done. And then where owing to a catastrophic event, there's an urgent need for goods, works or technical services, making it also impracticable to use other methods of procurement. And then there's a fourth caveat under which sole sourcing can be used, where procurement entity determines that additional, so we've procured an item from one company and we feel that there's a need for more of such, we can resort to that same supplier using single source to provide a lot more of that same product to allow for standardization, and then the need for compatibility with other existing materials that might have been procured by a said entity. And so those are the basis upon which more often than not we see sole sourcing being used. But as we heard the president complain yesterday, it's become a means by which a lot of the time concerns of corruption becomes lingered or becomes something associated with sole source contract. But a big question we ask is what the NDC plan is with respect to procurement and single source. This is what the NDC manifesto says with respect to that. They say that they will review the Public Procurement Act 2003 at 663 as amended, and that's the amendment which we provided details of, to ensure value for money and transparency in the public procurement process and pursue procurement reforms to prevent conflict of interest and insider dealing by politically exposed persons in the award of contracts. That's what the NDC manifesto says with respect to the entire procurement process, not a direct mention of single or sole source contracts, which the president was raising concerns about. But this is the response the NDC has with respect to the entire procurement architecture. But the big question remains whether or not it answers the question of single source being abused, as has become the case. And we know that the Auditor General has had to raise concerns with reports that continue to come through with the use of single or sole source in procuring certain things for government agencies.
Indeed, obviously, this is a conversation that will go on this entire second term of President John Dramani Mahama. We'll continue to talk about single source and procurement in general. Anyway, right now we'll take a quick breather and bring you Regional Hub. Now, security has been beefed up in Daboya following a clash between residents and students of Savannah College of Education. The security deployment from the Savannah Regional Police Command arrived in Daboya earlier this morning. Some residents of Daboya in the North Gonja district of the Savannah region clashed with students of the Savannah College of Education in the town after residents resisted the locking down of classrooms by the students. On Saturday, March 1st, students of the college locked up lecture halls and boycotted all academic activities with a threat to deal with any lecturer who steps foot in the school. The agitated students, who are first-year students, level 100 students, say they have been deceived by the management of the college regarding the school's status. According to them, they had been told that their school would be absorbed by the government to become a public facility, only to gain admission and find out that it was inaccurate, even though they found the school's name on the website of the Ghana Tertiary Education Commission. The students subsequently locked up classrooms and boycotted classes as a way of registering their displeasure. Now, management of the school is yet to respond to this incident. Christopher Mwako is following the story. He's joining us with a bit more from Daboya. Christopher, what's the situation in the school now?
Yes, so Kamini, I can confirm to you that some military personnel have also been deployed to the school to ensure that the security situation in the school is beefed up. Earlier, police personnel from the Northern Regional, Savannah Regional Police Command, that is in Damang, arrived in the school to ensure that some normalcy is brought to the school. Now, what we do know right now is that even though management of the school is yet to officially communicate to the media, but they have been engaging the students together with the security forces who have been stationed at the school to ensure that relative calm is restored. The community members, on the other hand, have withdrawn from the school premises and have gone back to the community. All they are seeking for is the students to open the classrooms that they have locked because, according to them, it has taken them some time to get the school running. Absorbing of the school is a process, and they do not think that agitating or agitations by the students at this particular critical moment when they should be talking to GTEC, talking to the Ministry of Education, and talking to government to finalize the absorption processes. And so what the students are doing is not right, and that the students should calm down for the right processes to continue.
I see. But what are we hearing from authorities regarding the status of the school? Is it public? Is it private? Where are they in the, the status change?
Okay, so they have gone through some processes. An MOU was even signed last year, November, between Ghana Education Service, the school itself, the community, as well as GTEC. But the final process, which has to do with the clearance to be given for staff to be recruited, to be given for some infrastructure to be provided the school, is yet to be done. Right now, if you go to the Colleges of Education website, you see Savannah College of Education. So the evaluation has been done, the school has been upgraded, and on the system, it is seen as a public college of education, but it has not been finalized yet. So the final process is yet to be done. Now, we are hearing that the agitation is as a result of a promise made by the president during his campaigns that within his first 100 days in office, he is going to ensure that the school is fully absorbed. And according to some people in the community, probably that could be a reason why the students are agitating. And so they want the school to be moved from private to public. But some processes have gone down already.
Very well, Christopher. And just before we let you go, why do the students say whether or not the school is private or public matters so much to them?
Yes, because you know that if after completing a teacher training college, you have ready employment if you go through the public sector. If you go through the private sector, it means that you have to wait. When government is posting teacher training who went through the private system, that is when you will get to be posted. And so that is their cause of concern. They are also saying that, you see, if you go to the private schools, you pay more. As it stands now, they pay more than they are supposed to pay if it were a public school. And so these are the reasons the students have been given.
I see, Christopher, thank you so much for talking to us. Christopher Mwako is our Northern Region correspondent.
Moving from the northern parts of the country to the Ashanti region, where to distinguish themselves from the illegal miners, the Ghana National Association of Small-Scale Miners has begun taking stock of licensed miners to contribute to regulating the activity for responsible mining. The association noted that the continuous extraction of water bodies and forest reserves by illegal miners also threatens the activities of licensed miners, hence the need to also involve itself and fight for responsible mining. Ibrahim Abubakar is joining us with a bit more details. Ibrahim, we know of the renewed fight against illegal mining, especially those operating on water bodies and forest reserves. What's the latest with respect to this fight against Galamsey?
Well, Mauna, the fight is still on. We still have the military and the police on the ground and trying to reclaim our forest reserves and water bodies for us. Currently, the Ghana Water Company in Ashanti region has informed us that some of the water bodies have improved, and talk about that of Odaso and other places. So they are beginning to see some level of improvement when it comes to the water bodies. However, in other areas too, the situation is getting worse, and they are hoping that as soon as possible, the team on the ground will also be visiting those areas, so that we see our water bodies being cleared and our forest reserves also being protected.
Quickly on this new initiative being taken by the small-scale miners, why that? Because they've come under some form of criticism, we know, as to being a part of the destruction that we're seeing on our forests and also on our water bodies.
Exactly, Mauna. We do know that we cannot talk about the menace being created by illegal miners without leaving out these small-scale miners, even though they are licensed, but we still have some of their members also breaching the regulations and going beyond what they are expected to do. Now, even the Ashanti Regional Minister has already started. They want to be able to identify all miners with licenses. They want to identify the places they are working, so that they'll be able to occasionally visit them. In an event they are even done with their activities at a particular site, they can always check and make sure that They've done responsible mining, put the land back to shape before leaving. The national small-scale mining is also coming in because, like we said, they believe that if we allow the activities of illegal miners to continue thriving, it means it will also affect the existence of their activities. So they are also trying to mobilize members, get their identification where they are working, and they say they will also follow up there to make sure that they are all doing responsible mining so we save our water bodies and forest resources. Let's listen to what the leadership have been telling us.
They don't give us licenses to mine on river bodies, and they don't give us licenses to mine in the forest reserve as small-scale miners. The only people who even get an opportunity a little bit is the large-scale companies. They are the people who always get licenses to mine the forest reserves. But anytime they are talking of the forest and then the river bodies, they only blend it with small-scale, which is unfortunate to say illegal small-scale mining. So why do you box illegalities against something which is legal? So that is why we are doing this registration, come out with a whole data, and we are going to fight for our industry. By law, since 1989, small-scale mining is in existence. So we will not come today, or will not sit today and people will come and then rubbish the whole thing. We need to formalize and do responsible mining.
This is an exercise that is putting the association in a position to monitor and supervise our members. So a day for the association to take up their responsibility into their hands is now. So we are urging every small-scale miner to be part of the registration.
And that's Razak Abdul. He's the secretary of the Ghana National Association of Small-Scale Miners. Earlier, my colleague Ibrahim Abubakar providing details there for us with respect to the concerns and this ongoing registration to clamp down on the activities of illegal miners.
Now to the Volta region, where many households in Liati Water, a community in the Afajato South District, have been rendered homeless following a rainstorm that hit the community. About 50 houses have been ripped off or collapsed, leaving many residents without roof over their heads.
The devastating rainstorm, which hit the community on Friday, began at about 6 p.m., destroying about 50 houses with close to 200 residents rendered homeless. Residents say the storm has left them helpless and are appealing for support.
A lot of people are in need. Roofing sheets, iron, a lot we can't mention. So we are just appealing to the government to please come to our aid.
Member of Parliament for the area, Frank Efriye, who toured the community on Monday, is appealing to government to run to the aid of the victims.
Significant number of buildings have been affected. That has also hardened their living, their lifestyles and their living conditions have become worse because already climatic and climate change issues have affected their productivity by the end of last year. So a huge number of farms have been devastated. They've lost their produce. And so we are using this medium to appeal to benevolent individuals, CSOs, NGOs, where the scale, the magnitude of destruction demands that government comes in expeditiously.
The MP's team included personnel from the National Disaster Management Organization, NADMO, who took time to assess the situation and gathered the necessary data on the affected victims.
We had to come down to take an initial assessment of the situation. Now that we have the data and the figures, we hope to forward same to national headquarters. So in good time, we are sure they will respond. They will know what to give to them in the form of relief.
In the interim, the MP has made a donation of some assorted food items and cash to support the victims. Faisal Abdul Idrisu, TV3 News.
So live here on News Central, we're bringing you a bit more stories right now. And in a move that marks a significant shift in the operational landscape of state-owned enterprises, the Ghana Publishing Company Limited, well known as Assembly Press, has officially launched its 24-hour service operations. The decision is expected to boost efficiency, enhance service delivery, and position the company as a premier printing and publishing entity in Ghana.
For over 6 decades, GPCL has served as the official printer and publisher for government documents, legal publications, and educational materials. Established in 1965, the company has evolved through various transformations, including its incorporation as a limited liability company in 1993 and a renaming in 2007. Today, as GPCL is embracing modern business practices by extending its operation hours to meet growing national and private sector demands, Minister of State for Government Communications underscored the need for state enterprises to adopt a proactive approach. He emphasized the move aligns with the government's vision of a 24-hour economy.
I must express pleasant surprise that even before government launches the 24-hour economy program, which was at the heart of the campaign waged by His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama, the Ghana Publishing Company has taken the lead. You have already gone ahead of everybody else to launch a 24-hour service. This shows your commitment and determination to chart a new course. At the end of the day, your shareholder, which is the government of Ghana, expects that you make profits and pay significant dividends so that the national coffers will swell up with the money that you make for us.
Despite the positive outlook, the company continues to face challenges.
The biggest burdens that faces us is high taxations on import of paper and other printing materials. And Minister, we wish to use this opportunity to appeal to you, through you to the government, to consider offering some exemptions to the company when it comes to the import of paper and printing of essential materials, the equipment that we use for printing of essential materials for our operations. Indeed, these are the things that have made us much less competitive in the general space.
Alongside the launch of 24-hour operations, the company plans to roll out digital initiatives, including an e-gazette system and an online platform for on-demand printing services. These efforts are expected to modernize its operations further, enhance accessibility, and solidify its role in both the national and international markets.
Minister for Environment, Science and Technology, Dr. Ibrahim Murtala Mohammed, has announced plans to expand assistance and grants for small and medium enterprises in recycling to help manage plastic waste in the country. He said this during a visit to SMEs under the Establishing a Circular Economy Framework for the Plastic Sector in Ghana project.
The minister, who doubles as MP for Tamale Central, in a media engagement said they will not only support the small and medium enterprises, but will monitor them to ensure that the funds are put to good use.
Some would argue that a lot of plastic waste, are gotten in Greater Accra, because about 30%, or is it about 60% of the waste that we produce are from Greater Accra. We are able to process just 10% of the plastic waste we generate in this country. So the question is, the other 90%, what happens? So we are looking forward to expanding this particular assistance and grants to a lot of, entities who are engaged and having the expertise to manage the plastics that we have.
Dr. Ibrahim Murtala Mohammed emphasized the project is targeted at job creation, especially for women.
We are gender biased for women. We realize that we live in a country where a majority of the people in this country are women. So there is the need for some concerted effort in the policy interventions we have to gear towards, bringing to par our women, our sisters and mothers, who may also be very useful. And then they are indeed useful. Their work is not only limited to the home. Considering the fact that the majority of the people in this country are women, we need to be having such affirmative policy decisions.
Now, the traditional Kente cloth is desired in the wardrobe by many in Ghana and across the globe. However, the laborious weaving process affects pricing, putting it out of the reach of many. However, innovations to support indigenous weavers to produce faster without breaking their backs. But are the traditional weavers ready to accept these innovations to satisfy market needs? Ibrahim Abubakar finds out.
Well, our Ghana Man series brings us to Bonre, home of the revered traditional cloth, Kente. Now, the last time we came here, one of their major challenge had to do with access to this community, I mean their road network. Today, the situation has improved. Kente is a traditional cloth weaved by the Ashantis and Ewes of Ghana. The expensive cloth is worn for important and memorable occasions. The Kente cloth is woven on a narrow horizontal loom, usually using between 2 to 6 sets of heddles. The cloth is woven on narrow strips before being sewn together to make a wider piece of cloth. Though the traditional method of weaving Kente brings out the uniqueness of the cloth, the process is tedious, taking several hours to weave just a narrow strip.
For instance, what I'm doing now, in the whole community we have only 10 people, and I'm the only youth who is doing this cloth. Because for you to sit on one cloth for 6 months, sometimes they need quick money. You know, they need quick money, so they will do the other ones.
The Bonre community in the Ejusu municipality of Ashanti region is synonymous with Kente production. Over 70% of residents here depend solely on the production and selling of the traditional cloth to earn a living. The youth in this area usually form groups to weave the Kente. Local and international tourists visit the area to observe the weaving processes and also transact business with producers.
And so we've come here and we've been very impressed that it's nice to see it in the traditional, done by the hands and not have a machine doing it. Just it's very wonderful to see what they have to offer and how they do it, and the beautiful patterns and everything. So
the price of a Kente cloth ranges between 500 and 25,000 Ghana cedis, depending on the complexity of the design. However, there are innovative ways of weaving the cloth to meet the growing demand. But are the traditional weavers ready to embrace the innovation to drastically cut the time for weaving?
Machine bit my baby, but I need na machine bit my baby. And so I can tell you, or say making my phone try as a machine bay, but I'm only here babon to now. Say, and then you can't tell as a shed and temu. In Sibia, a bus and machine say, Reboba Homano, and I say a day, a lay a man bagano, and only be a machine with my baba. Say a Tima, and you see an idea. Machine, a room to see a better Quintana Musuno. A bassa is the name of Rinjan Yadebaco.
Kente is a hand weaving cloth which symbolizes something in Ashanti's culture. It's a hand weaving, it's not a machine. So the moment you break technology, you spoil the whole thing.
The weavers here are clamoring for only one thing, which is the establishment of a yarn factory in the area to be able to reduce the cost of producing the cloth. This, they believe, will also increase patronage. Ibrahim Abubakar, TV3 News, Bonre, Ashanti region.
Really beautiful.
Yeah, very beautiful. But it's an interesting conversation. The new clothes of, a very traditional fabric like this, hand woven, and where technology can come in. The individuals say technology cannot do the work they do, even though I think
perhaps one thing I'm happy about. So it preserves the tradition and the worth that comes with it.
Well, that's a fact, but I'm just curious as to whether or not we can have a machine that could
mechanize it just a little bit.
Yeah, just maybe, but for now, based on what they're telling us, the essence and the value and the rich nature of it will be lost. But anyway, we have to go. That's our bulletin for you this afternoon. I am Mawin.
And I am Kemeni Amano. There's more to come your way.